The hologram appeared on every screen in the command center. Admiral Jiho stood still, his arms crossed over his chest. He watched the alien diplomat on the display. The creature had 3 eyes that glowed with anger. Its mouthparts clicked and moved as it spoke. "Your species has broken our laws," the alien said. The translation software turned its words into human language. "You have taken technologies that are forbidden. You have built settlements in zones that belong to others. You refuse to give us your genetic information. The Galactic Council has voted. Humanity must return to a primitive state or you will all die." The message ended with a final statement. Earth had 30 days to surrender. If they refused, the combined fleet would burn every human city to ash. Every colony would be destroyed. Every space station would be reduced to debris. The transmission ended. The screens went dark. Silence filled the command center for exactly 3 seconds. Then Admiral Jiho smiled. 30 days, he said quietly. He turned to look at Captain Hiren, who stood beside him. "They are giving us 30 days. Hiren's mouth twitched. She almost smiled too. "Should we tell them, sir?" "Tell them what?" Jiho's smile grew wider. "That we have been ready for this moment for 200 years. Around them, officers began moving quickly. They did not panic. They did not look afraid. They had purpose. Every person knew exactly what to do. Colonel Doyun pulled up a holographic map. It showed every human ship in space, every station, every hidden base. "All Ghost Fleet units are responding," he reported. "Stealth carriers are moving into position." The outer colonies report full weapons authorization. "What about the sleepers?" Jiho asked. "Waking them now, sir. The first generation will be very pleased." Jiho walked to the large window. He looked down at Earth below. The planet looked peaceful from orbit. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. To anyone watching, Earth seemed defenseless. But that was exactly what humanity wanted them to think. Humans had learned important lessons the hard way. 70 years ago, when they first met the Galactic Council, they had been welcomed warmly. The aliens called them primitive but promising. They gave humanity a small territory in space. They told humans to stay quiet and learn from the older, wiser species. The humans had smiled. They had nodded politely. They had said thank you, and then they immediately began preparing for war. Because humanity already knew what empires did to the weak. Humans had fought each other for thousands of years on Earth. They had built empires. They had destroyed empires. They knew the pattern. They recognized what the Galactic Council truly was. Not a government of equals, not a peaceful federation. It was a protection racket. The strong species divided the galaxy among themselves. They kept everyone else weak and obedient. Earth had been given time. Time to watch. Time to learn. Time to steal technology. And most importantly, time to build weapons. "Send the response," Jiho ordered. "Use standard diplomatic protocols." Hiren raised an eyebrow. "Just the standard refusal?" "Yes, let them think we are afraid. Let them think we will beg for mercy." Jiho's expression became hard. His eyes were cold. "And activate Protocol Homecoming. Every human in galactic space needs to come home. Merchants, diplomats, students, tourists. Bring them all back. Even the deep cover agents. Everyone. If humanity is going to show the galaxy what we really are, I want every one of our people safe first." Hiren saluted. She moved quickly to carry out the orders. Within hours, human ships across the galaxy began quietly disappearing. They slipped away from ports and stations when no one was watching. They used secret routes that the Galactic Council did not know existed. All of them headed back toward Earth. Deep in Earth's oceans, something stirred. In mountains, hidden doors opened. In hollowed-out asteroids, lights turned on for the first time in decades. In the dark spaces between stars, ships that had never appeared on any official list powered up their reactors. Weapons that officially did not exist ran final checks. Soldiers who had trained their entire lives for a war that might never come finally received their orders. The waiting was over. In a bunker beneath the Pacific Ocean, Commander Minho sat in the command chair of the UES Retribution. The ship had been built in secret over 15 years. It had never been registered. No alien spy had ever seen it. It was a heavy battlecruiser armed with weapons the Galactic Council thought were impossible. "All systems green," his tactical officer reported. "Reactor at full power. Weapons ready. Stealth field holding steady." Minho nodded. "Take us to the rally point. Silent running. The Retribution rose from its underwater dock. It passed through the ocean without making a sound. It broke the surface and climbed into space, completely invisible to any scanner. Across Earth's solar system, 300 ships just like it were doing the same thing. Admiral Jiho watched the tactical display as his hidden fleet assembled. Every ship appeared on the map as it dropped its camouflage and reported ready. The Ghost Fleet, humanity's secret weapon. They think we have 43 ships, Hiron said quietly, standing beside him. Converted civilian vessels with primitive weapons. Let them keep thinking that, Jiho replied. The longer they underestimate us, the better. What if they don't attack? What if they accept our diplomatic response? Jiho shook his head slowly. They will attack. Empires always attack. They cannot afford to look weak. If they let us refuse their demands, other species might get ideas. They might start refusing too. No, they will come. And when they do, we will be ready. He thought about all the years of preparation, the secret shipyards, the hidden research facilities, the thousands of scientists who had worked their entire careers on classified projects, the soldiers who had trained in secret bases, the spies who had stolen alien technology piece by piece, 200 years of planning, 200 years of preparation, all leading to this moment. Send a message to all fleet commanders, Jiho ordered. Tell them to remember their training. We are not trying to conquer the galaxy. We are sending a message. The message is simple. Humanity will not be intimidated. Humanity will not be enslaved. And anyone who tries to destroy us will regret it. The officers around him straightened. They knew what was coming. They had trained for this, prepared for this. Some had been born into families where every generation had prepared for this war. Jiho looked at Earth one more time. His home, the cradle of humanity. A planet that had survived ice ages and asteroid impacts. A species that had climbed from caves to the stars. They had fought each other for millennia, learning and perfecting the art of war. Now they would show the galaxy what humanity had learned. The Galactic Council thought they were crushing an upstart species. They thought they were teaching primitive humans a lesson about respecting their betters. They had no idea they had just woken a sleeping monster. Admiral, Doyen called out. We are receiving responses from the sleepers. The first generation is awake. They are excited. Jiho allowed himself a small smile. The first generation. The original soldiers and scientists who had started preparing for this war 200 years ago. They had undergone suspended animation, waiting for the day when they would be needed. Men and women who had sacrificed everything, giving up their normal lives to sleep until humanity needed them. Tell them welcome back, Jiho said. And tell them their long wait is over. The countdown had begun. 30 days until the Galactic Council's deadline. 30 days until the combined fleet arrived at Earth. But humanity was not counting down to surrender. They were counting down to war. And they were ready. 27 days after the declaration, the combined fleet assembled at the edge of human space. 600 warships from 12 different species. They represented the might of the Galactic Council. The Vorkesh commanded the largest group. Their massive dreadnoughts carried plasma batteries powerful enough to destroy a planet. The crystalline Nether brought their reality-warping cruisers. Even the usually neutral Pelkesh had sent their bioships. Living vessels grown specifically for war. Fleet Commander Vexthral stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominance. He watched the tactical display with satisfaction. His intelligence report said Earth had only 43 military vessels. Converted civilian ships with basic kinetic weapons and simple energy shields. The humans had sent desperate messages begging for peace. They offered anything to avoid war. Pathetic, Vexthral thought. All ships report ready, Commander, his tactical officer announced. Excellent. Begin the standard approach. Weapons free, shields at maximum. Vexthral settled into his command throne. Let us make this quick. I want to be home for the Ascension Festival. The fleet moved forward in perfect formation, a wall of overwhelming power advancing toward Earth's outer defense platforms. Long-range sensors showed the human ships retreating toward their homeworld. Exactly as expected. Then everything changed. Space itself seemed to tear open. Stealth fields dropped all around them. Suddenly, the combined fleet was not facing 43 primitive vessels. They were surrounded by over 300 warships that had been hiding in plain sight. Ships using stealth technology the Galactic Council believed was impossible. But these were not converted civilian craft. Captain Minho commanded the UES Retribution, a heavy battle cruiser that existed nowhere in official human records. His crew had trained for this exact scenario for 5 years. When the order came, they dropped stealth and opened fire. 50 other Ghost Fleet vessels did the same at the exact same moment. The weapons were not primitive kinetics. Railguns accelerated tungsten rods to incredible speeds. No energy signature to detect. No warning. The Vorkesh Dreadnought Truth's hammer simply ceased to exist. 3 rounds punched through its shields like they were paper. The ship's reactor detonated in a brilliant flash. "Target their command vessels," Minho ordered calmly. "Fire at will." Across the battlefield, human ships revealed weapons that should not exist. Quantum torpedoes that ignored conventional shields. Focused antimatter beams. Gravity well generators that crushed ships like empty cans. And then came the real surprise. Commander Sunhee piloted her fighter through the chaos with practiced ease. The Banshee-class strike craft was not just fast. It could phase shift, becoming temporarily intangible. It passed through enemy shields before rematerializing inside and unleashing its payload. "Phoenix Squadron on my mark," she transmitted. "Remember our orders. Disable, do not destroy. We want prisoners." 12 fighters shimmered and vanished. They reappeared inside the Nether flagship. Their precision strikes hit power distribution nodes, communications arrays, life support systems. Within 90 seconds, the pride of the Nether fleet was dead in space. Its crew suffocated as oxygen vented into vacuum. The combined fleet tried to regroup, but human electronic warfare had already compromised their tactical network. Ships received contradictory orders. Weapons targeting systems failed. Some vessels found their own reactors shutting down. Human viruses activated. Dormant code that had been waiting since human technicians had serviced them at neutral ports months ago. Fleet Commander Vexthral watched his perfect formation disintegrate into chaos. "How are they doing this?" Our intelligence said. "Our intelligence was fed exactly what the humans wanted us to know, sir," his tactical officer said quietly. His voice trembled with fear. Before Vexthral could respond, something massive appeared on sensors. A human supercarrier, twice the size of his flagship, dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly above the combined fleet. Its launch bays opened like the mouth of some ancient. Predator Lieutenant Yuna sat in the briefing room of the UES Indomitable with 500 other pilots. She watched the deployment countdown tick toward 0. "Remember your training," their squadron leader Major Tajin said calmly. "We are not here to massacre them. We are here to send a message. Disable their weapons and engines, then move to the next target. Make every shot count," the launch klaxon sounded. Yuna felt the familiar acceleration as her bomber catapulted into space. Around her, the entire wing deployed. 300 heavy bombers, each carrying enough firepower to crack a moon. The Galactic Fleet had never seen coordinated strike craft operations on this scale. Their point defense systems were designed to stop missiles and torpedoes. They were utterly unprepared for manned fighters moving with inhuman precision, working in perfect synchronization. Yuna's targeting computer locked onto a Vorkesh cruiser. "Phoenix 3 engaging," she reported. Her bomber dove toward the enemy ship. Point defense fire filled the space around her, but her evasion pattern was perfect. She released her payload at exactly the right moment. The antimatter torpedo struck the cruiser's engine section. The ship did not explode. Instead, its engines died. Its weapons went dark. It drifted helplessly in space, target disabled. Moving to next objective. All across the battlefield, the story repeated. Human bombers struck with surgical precision, not destroying, disabling, creating a fleet of crippled ships that would serve as a message. Within 3 hours, the combined fleet had been reduced to wreckage and crippled hulks. 400 ships destroyed or disabled. The remaining vessels fled in disorder. They abandoned their dead and wounded. They ran back toward Council space as fast as their drives would carry them. Human casualties, 12 fighters lost. 2 frigates damaged. 0 capital ships destroyed. Admiral Jiho watched from Earth Command as the survivors limped away. "Let them go," he ordered. "Let them tell the galaxy exactly what happened here." Captain Hyeron approached with a data pad. "Prisoners are being processed. We recovered 20,000 survivors. They are terrified, sir. Some are requesting asylum. Treat them well," Jiho said. "Give them medical care. Show them that humans are not monsters," he smiled grimly. "Even if we are very, very good at war." The interrogations began immediately. Not torture, not intimidation. Simple questions. A captured Pelkesh officer sat across from Lieutenant Junho in a clean, well-lit room. The alien's bioluminescence flickered with fear and confusion. "Why?" the Pelkesh asked. "Why did you spare us? Your weapons could have destroyed every ship, but you disabled most of them instead." Junho leaned back in his chair. "Because we are not trying to commit genocide. We are trying to teach a lesson. The lesson is simple: leave humanity alone. But the casualties, your people barely lost anyone." "We trained for this," Junho said simply. "While the Galactic Council grew comfortable, we prepared. We studied. We learned. We built weapons designed specifically to counter yours." The Pelkesh officer was silent for a long moment. "The Council will send more fleets." "Let them try," Junho replied. "Every battle will end the same way. Because you are fighting a war you do not understand. You think war is about who has the biggest ships and the most guns. We know war is about strategy, about preparation, about understanding your enemy better than they understand themselves." News of the battle spread across the galaxy within hours. The official council channels called it a minor setback and promised swift retaliation. But the truth could not be hidden. 600 ships sent to crush humanity, 400 destroyed or crippled, the survivors fleeing in panic. On subject worlds throughout council space, people watched the footage and whispered to each other. For the first time in generations, someone had stood up to the council. Someone had fought back and won. Admiral Jiho stood before a holographic display showing the galaxy. Red markers showed council territory. Blue markers showed human territory. And now, scattered throughout council space, yellow markers began appearing. Resistance movements, protests, civil unrest. "It has begun," he said quietly to Hyeron. "What has begun, sir?" "The fall of empires," Jiho replied. "They always fall the same way. Not from external conquest, but from internal collapse. The moment people realize their rulers are not invincible, everything changes." He highlighted several star systems. These are subject species that have been oppressed for decades. They are watching what happened here. They are asking themselves a question. If humanity can defy the council, why can't we? Are we going to help them? "When the time is right," Jiho said. "For now, we let the council make their next move. They cannot afford to look weak. They will escalate. And when they do, we will be ready." The battle that was supposed to crush humanity had lasted less than a day. The message had been sent. Earth would not surrender. Earth would not beg. Earth would fight, and Earth would win. The galaxy was watching now. And the galaxy was learning that humanity was not what it seemed. The Galactic Council met in emergency session aboard Unity Station. The massive diplomatic complex floated at the galactic core. Representatives from 47 species gathered in the Grand Chamber. Their various forms of communication were translated by advanced AI into something resembling coherent discussion. What started as polite debate quickly descended into chaos. "This is impossible." The Vorkesh High speaker slammed 3 appendages on his podium. "No species developed such technology in 70 years. They were primitive when we found them." Counselor Kyung stepped forward into the center of the chamber. She was human, one of Earth's official diplomatic representatives. Everyone had assumed her position was ceremonial, a token gesture to make humanity feel included. She wore a simple black suit and carried no weapons. Yet every species in the room suddenly felt the temperature drop. "Were we?" she asked softly. The chamber fell silent. "When your scouts first found Earth, what did they report?" Kyung's voice was calm, almost gentle. A species that had just achieved basic spaceflight. Still fighting among themselves. Primitive nuclear weapons. Resource depletion. Climate problems. You saw exactly what we wanted you to see. You are claiming first contact was staged? The Nether representative's crystals chimed with disbelief. Not staged. Engineered. Kyung smiled. When our astronomers confirmed we were not alone in the universe, we had a choice. Announce ourselves loudly and risk being crushed by whoever found us first. Or be smart about it. So we prepared. She activated a holographic display. Images filled the chamber. Human history, but not the version the Galactic Council knew. "This is the Taejan Protocol drafted 140 years ago," Kyung explained. "When we detected your scout ships approaching our system, we mobilized. Every advanced facility was hidden. Every military installation was camouflaged. Our most capable ships were pulled back. We made Earth look vulnerable and divided. The display showed human settlements on Mars, on Europa, in the asteroid belt, all carefully disguised to appear far less advanced than they actually were. While your diplomats welcomed us to the galactic community, we studied you. We learned your languages, your technologies, your weaknesses. Human merchants were not just trading, they were gathering intelligence. Human students were not just learning, they were stealing. Every diplomatic exchange was a reconnaissance mission. A Pelkesh counselor's bioluminescence flared with anger. You dare admit to espionage in this chamber? I admit to survival, Kyung replied coldly. Did you know that 70% of primitive species brought into the Galactic Council are either subjugated or extinct within 2 generations? We studied your history. We saw what you did to the Trellin, the Borquat, the Hilvan, species that trusted you. She let that sink in. Humanity learned long ago that in an uncertain universe, the only people you can truly rely on are your own. We have spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of organized violence. We have fought wars on every continent of our world. We have developed 10,000 ways to kill each other. And now we have adapted every single one of those methods for your species. Back on Earth, Professor Jiwoo lectured to a room full of young officers in the War College. She was explaining humanity's strategy to the next generation of commanders. The key to humanity's survival, she said, was understanding that we did not need to match the Galactic Council's technology immediately. We needed to excel where they were weakest. She brought up tactical analyses of previous galactic wars. The Council species fight according to rigid doctrines. They establish formal battle lines. They rely on overwhelming firepower and shields. They have forgotten what real war looks like, because they have been the strongest powers in the galaxy for so long. They have never faced an existential threat. A young lieutenant named Wu Jin raised his hand. So we exploited their complacency? Exactly. While they built bigger dreadnoughts, we built stealth technology. While they enhanced their shields, we developed weapons that bypass shields entirely. While they created rigid command structures, we trained independent tactical units that can adapt on the fly. Jiwoo pulled up footage from the recent battle. Look at how the combined fleet responded to our ambush. They tried to form a defensive sphere, a textbook maneuver that works perfectly when you are fighting other Council species, but against an enemy that uses phase shift fighters, stealth bombers, quantum torpedoes? It was worse than useless. They concentrated themselves into a target-rich environment. Another student, Yanwu, asked a question. What about their superior numbers? They can field thousands of ships to our hundreds. Numbers mean nothing if you cannot bring them to bear effectively. Our stealth technology means we choose when and where to fight. Our superior logistics mean our ships can operate independently for months. Their fleets need massive supply chains and regular port calls. We have already destroyed 17 of their forward supply depots. Jiwoo smiled. They are learning what asymmetric warfare means. Back at Unity Station, Counselor Kyung continued her presentation. You declared war on humanity expecting an easy victory. You thought we would beg for mercy. Her expression hardened. Instead, you have awakened something you do not understand. Humanity does not just fight wars. We perfect them. We analyze them. We turn violence into science and strategy into art. Are you threatening this council? The High Speaker demanded. No, I am educating you. Kyung deactivated the display. The war you started will end in one of 2 ways. Either you accept humanity as an equal partner in galactic affairs, which means revising your laws, your territories, your attitudes, or you continue fighting, and we dismantle your empire ship by ship, world by world. You cannot be serious. The full might of the Council has already lost 1 battle catastrophically, Kyung interrupted. How many more defeats can you afford before your subject species realize you are not invincible? How many more before they start rebelling? Before your own member species begin questioning why they follow you? The chamber erupted into arguments, threats, panicked discussion. But Kyung noticed something important. Several of the minor species representatives were watching her with something that looked like hope. She had planted seeds that would grow into something the Council could not control. A Tamulan representative approached her after the session ended. The Tamulan were one of the founding species of the Council, powerful, ancient, and now clearly worried. Counselor Kyung, the Tamulan said quietly, my government wishes to open private negotiations with Earth separate from the Council. Why? Kyung asked, though she already knew the answer. Because we are pragmatists. We see the direction this conflict is heading. Better to make peace now than face destruction later. Kyung considered this carefully. I will relay your request to my government. But understand this. Humanity will not accept half measures. If you want peace, you must commit to real change. We understand. As the Tamalan left, Kyung allowed herself a small smile. The council was fracturing. Not from military defeat alone, but from political reality. The member species were realizing that continuing this war would cost them more than they could afford. Meanwhile, in deep space, Captain Junho commanded the UES Shadow Strike, a deep penetration vessel designed for operations behind enemy lines. His mission was to visit oppressed species and offer them something the Council never had, a choice. He stood in a meeting chamber on Kelros Prime, facing representatives of the Kelrosi people, a species that had been conquered by the Council 40 years ago and systematically stripped of their autonomy. We do not understand, said Elder Hivrox. Her fur rippled with confusion. Why would humanity help us? What do you gain? Yunyo kept his expression neutral. Strategically allies, another front in the war that divides Council resources. He paused. But there is more to it than that. My grandmother was from a small nation on Earth that was occupied by a larger power. She taught me that freedom is not something granted by the powerful, it is something taken by the brave. He activated a holographic display, showing Kelrosi military installations, all carefully mapped by human intelligence. The Council keeps 4 garrison fleets in your system. They monitor your communications, restrict your trade, take 70% of your resources as tribute. In 2 weeks, those garrison fleets will be redeployed to fight us. That gives you a window. A window to do what? Hivrox asked, though her ears were already pricked forward with interest. To take your world back. Junho highlighted several key targets. These are their command centers. These are their supply depots. These are their surveillance satellites. We will provide you with weapons, training, intelligence. When the time comes, you strike simultaneously. By the time they realize what is happening, your world will be yours again. And then, the Council will send more fleets to crush us. Then we help you defend it. And we help you contact other oppressed species. And we build a coalition. Junho's expression hardened. The Council has ruled through fear and overwhelming force for generations. But every empire falls eventually, usually from within. Hivrox looked at her fellow Kelrosi leaders. She saw the same expression on all their faces. Hope mixed with fear, the desire for freedom battling against the reality of risk. We will need time to decide, she said finally. You have 24 hours. The war entered its 3rd month. The galaxy began to fracture. Captain Junho's mission on Kelros Prime had succeeded. Within days, human advisors were secretly training Kelrosi resistance fighters, teaching them tactics, showing them how to use the weapons Earth provided, how to strike fast and disappear, how to coordinate their attacks for maximum effect. Similar missions were underway on 17 other worlds. Lieutenant Commander Siora specialized in information warfare. She sat in a dark room aboard the Shadow Strike, surrounded by holographic displays. Her fingers moved across virtual keyboards. She was crafting messages that would spread across the galactic network. Her team had hacked into the Council's own communication systems, ironically using security vulnerabilities that the Council had been warned about by human technicians years ago. Warnings they had ignored. Broadcasting now, she announced. Across the galaxy on every major world and station a message appeared. It showed footage from the first battle. Not edited propaganda. Raw combat recordings. The images were devastating. The combined fleet shattered. Human ships moving with impossible precision. Council admirals fleeing in disarray. But the message that accompanied the footage was carefully crafted. The Galactic Council declared war on humanity to protect their power. They lost. Now they tell you we are dangerous, that we are monsters who must be destroyed. Ask yourself this question. Who started this war? Who refused negotiation? Who demands tribute and obedience from dozens of species while claiming to promote peace? Humanity offers an alternative, freedom, equal partnership. The right of every species to determine its own fate. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We want to free it. To any species tired of bowing to the Council, we stand with you. When you are ready to stand up, we will be there. The message was signed simply, the United Earth. Admiral Jiho watched the chaos unfold from Earth Command. Intelligence reports flooded in. Protests on council worlds. Open rebellion on subject planets. Even dissent within the council's own military. The Pelkesh have withdrawn 3 fleets to deal with uprisings in their territory, Captain Hyerin reported. The Nether are recalling their ships to protect their home system. The Vorkesh High Command is screaming for reinforcements, but nobody is sending them. What about the Tamulan? Jiho asked. That is the interesting part. Hyerin pulled up a diplomatic message. They want to negotiate. Separately from the council, Jiho raised an eyebrow. One of the council's founding species wants to talk peace while the war is still active. They are pragmatists. They see the writing on the wall. Hyerin highlighted economic data. Human privateers have destroyed 40% of council shipping in the past month. Trade routes are collapsing. The economic costs are mounting faster than military ones. Commander Hagen entered the room. He was head of diplomatic intelligence. Sir, we are receiving covert communications from 6 different council species. They all want the same thing. Secret negotiations, terms for neutrality or defection. Jiho considered this carefully. The council is imploding. Not from military defeat alone, but from political collapse. Should we accept the negotiations? Accept them from the minor species who have been coerced into this war. Offer them generous terms, protection, trade agreements, cultural exchange. Show them that humanity's word means something. Jiho's expression hardened, but not the core council species. Not yet, they need to feel real pain first. Otherwise, they will just rebuild and try this again in 50 years. On Kelros Prime, the rebellion began exactly on schedule. Resistance leader Corvin had never imagined his people could fight back against the council's garrison forces. But the human weapons changed everything. Portable railguns that could punch through military armor, EMP devices that disabled council communications. Most importantly, intelligence so precise that every strike hit exactly where it needed to. The attack began at midnight local time. Across the planet, resistance cells struck simultaneously. Command centers went dark. Supply depots exploded. Communication towers fell silent. The council garrison, used to dealing with unarmed protesters, found itself facing a coordinated military operation. The main garrison fell in 6 hours. By dawn, the Kelrosi flag flew over the capital again for the first time in 40 years. Corvin stood in the ruins of the occupation headquarters, staring at a holographic message from Captain Junho. Congratulations on your freedom. Now comes the hard part. Defending it. Human ships are en route to provide orbital support. In the meantime, fortify your positions and prepare for counterattack. They will come. But you will not be fighting alone. Corvin looked at his fellow rebels, farmers, teachers, engineers who had become soldiers out of necessity. They were exhausted, bloodied, but their eyes burned with something that had been missing for 4 decades. Hope. News of the Kelrosi liberation spread like wildfire. Within days, 3 more worlds rose in rebellion. Within weeks, the number climbed to 12. The Council's military found itself stretched impossibly thin, fighting human fleets in space, fighting rebellions on the ground. Watching their empire crumble from within, the Council's response was predictable. They declared martial law across their territory, sent military governors to restive worlds, increased tribute demands to fund the war effort. It backfired spectacularly. More species joined the rebellion. Even some council member species began questioning their leadership. Why were they fighting this war? What were they gaining? Why were they losing so badly? Lieutenant Commander Ciora watched the information cascade with satisfaction. Every council attempt to suppress the truth only made it spread faster. Every threat only hardened resistance. Every show of force only revealed their weakness. The narrative has shifted, she reported to Admiral Jiho during a secure communication. 6 months ago, the council controlled the story. They were the legitimate government. We were the upstart criminals. Now we are the liberators. They are the oppressors. Public opinion across the galaxy has turned against them. Public opinion does not win wars, Jiho said. No, but it ends them. Ciora pulled up data showing council military recruitment. Their enlistment numbers have collapsed. Desertions are up 300%. Member species are refusing to send reinforcements. They cannot sustain a long war. Not when their own people question why they are fighting. Jiho nodded slowly. What about morale in our forces? High, very high. Our people know exactly what they are fighting for. And they are winning. That was the crucial difference. Council forces were fighting to maintain an empire. Human forces were fighting for survival and for a principle, for the right of every species to be free. It gave them an advantage no amount of technology could match. Purpose: Captain Minho's battlecruiser, the Retribution, intercepted a Council supply convoy near the Horvath Nebula. 20 cargo ships escorted by 6 destroyers. The convoy was carrying supplies to a Council garrison. Minho's orders were clear. Destroy the supplies, disable the escorts, take prisoners if possible. The Retribution dropped out of stealth directly above the convoy. The Council destroyers never had a chance to react. Railgun rounds disabled their weapons and engines in the first salvo. The cargo ships, unarmed and undefended, surrendered immediately. Send boarding parties, Minho ordered. Take the cargo. Scuttle the ships. Treat the crews well. His officers moved efficiently. This was routine now. The 4th convoy they had intercepted this week. The Council supply lines were collapsing. Their forces in the field were running short of ammunition, food, medical supplies, everything they needed to fight. One of the captured Council officers was brought to Minho's ready room. A Vorkesh lieutenant who looked defeated and exhausted. You will be treated according to the conventions of war, Minho told him. You will be held until the war ends, then released. Why? The Vorkesh asked. Why show mercy? We came to destroy your species. Because we are not monsters, Minho replied simply. We are soldiers doing our duty, just as you were doing yours. This war is not your fault. It is your leader's fault. We hold no hatred for you personally. The Vorkesh was silent for a long moment. My government says you are barbarians, savages who must be exterminated. What do you think now? I think my government lied to me. Minho nodded. Then learn from this. When the war ends, go home. Tell your people the truth. Help build something better. Across the galaxy, similar interactions were taking place. Human forces treated prisoners well, provided medical care, respected cultural practices. It was strategic, yes. Good treatment of prisoners encouraged surrenders and undermined enemy morale. But it was also principled. Humanity remembered its own history, the atrocities committed in past wars. They were determined not to repeat those mistakes. Back on Earth, Professor Jiwoo updated her lectures to include the current campaign. Asymmetric warfare is not just about military tactics, she explained to her students. It is about winning hearts and minds. Every prisoner we treat well becomes a potential advocate. Every liberated world becomes an ally. Every act of mercy undermines the enemy's propaganda. The Council tells their people we are monsters. But when their soldiers are captured and treated humanely, when liberated worlds prosper under freedom, the truth becomes impossible to hide. We win the information war by being better than our enemies expect. A student raised her hand. 6 months after the war began, the Galactic Council was no longer the power it once was. 12 species had declared neutrality. 7 had openly allied with Earth. The Council's territory had contracted by 30%. And most damaging of all, their reputation of invincibility had been shattered forever. Admiral Jiho stood on the bridge of the UES Yamato, humanity's newest super dreadnought. He was leading a combined human and allied fleet toward Vexor Station. Intelligence indicated this was where the Council was gathering forces for one final massive offensive. One last attempt to crush the rebellion and restore their authority. All ships report ready, Captain Hyeron announced. Allied contingents from Kelros, Tamalon, and Horvath sectors are in position. Jiho studied the tactical display. The Council had assembled nearly 2,000 ships. Everything they could spare. It was an impressive force, but he noticed something important. The formation was defensive. Clustered around the station rather than positioned for attack, they were afraid. Open a channel, Jiho ordered. All frequencies. I want every ship in this system to hear this. The holographic projector activated, broadcasting his image across the battlefield. This is Admiral Jiho of the United Earth Defense Force. 6 months ago, the Galactic Council declared war on humanity. They claimed we were criminals, upstarts, a threat to galactic order. He paused. They were wrong about the first 2, but they were absolutely right about the third. In the Council fleet, thousands of commanders and crew watched this transmission. Some with fear, some with anger, many with uncertainty. Humanity is a threat, to oppression. To any government that believes some species are born to rule while others are born to serve. Jiho's expression hardened. You started this war to put us in our place. Instead, you have shown the galaxy that empires built on fear are fragile. That power without legitimacy is temporary, he gestured. The tactical display shifted to show the fracturing council territories. 17 species have liberated themselves in the past 6 months. 12 more have declared neutrality. Your empire is crumbling, not because of human military might alone, but because you built it on fear instead of respect, and fear evaporates the moment someone stands up and fights back. On the surface of Kelros Prime, Elder Hivrox watched the broadcast with her people gathered in the central square. When the human admiral spoke of liberation, a cheer went up from thousands of throats. Children who had been born under occupation were seeing freedom for the first time. Aboard the Council flagship Eternal Unity, Supreme Commander Vexthral stared at Jiho's image with undisguised hatred. This was the same commander who had led the disastrous first attack. The attack that had begun the Council's downfall. He is trying to demoralize us, Vexthral snarled. All ships prepare to engage. We will crush them with pure numbers. But his tactical officer looked pale. Frightened. Sir, energy signatures suggest the human fleet has significantly more firepower than our scans initially indicated. They are masking their true capabilities again. Before Vexthral could respond, Jiho continued his broadcast. I am not here to destroy you. Believe it or not, humanity did not want this war. We wanted peaceful coexistence, trade, cultural exchange, partnership. His voice took on an edge of steel. But you gave us war. So we mastered it. Here's what happens next. You have 2 choices. First choice, stand down. Agree to peace negotiations. Recognize humanity and our allies as sovereign equals. Reform your government to give actual representation to all species. Accept oversight to ensure you never again wage wars of conquest. Second choice, fight. And we will dismantle your fleets ship by ship. We will liberate every species you have subjugated. We will turn your empire into a story told to frighten future tyrants. Jiho leaned forward. His eyes were cold, hard. Choose quickly. You have 1 hour. The transmission ended. Commander Minjae aboard the stealth carrier Wraith monitored council communications as chaos erupted across their fleet. Some commanders argued for attack. Others advocated surrender. Several ships were already powering down weapons, requesting asylum, asking for permission to withdraw. The fleet is fragmenting, Admiral, Minjae reported. 40 ships have requested permission to withdraw. The Nether contingent is refusing to engage. The Pelkesh are breaking formation. Jiho watched the tactical display. The Council's united front was crumbling in real time. This was the true art of war. Winning before the battle even began. Making the enemy defeat themselves. Finally, a transmission came from Vexthral. The Supreme Commander looked like he had aged 10 years in 1 hour. His posture was defeated, his voice hollow. The Council agrees to negotiate. Jiho nodded slowly. Wise decision. All ships stand down. Maintain defensive positions but do not fire unless fired upon. The peace talks took place aboard a neutral trading station at the Galactic Rim, far from Council space, far from Earth. Neutral ground where both sides could meet without fear. Councillor Kyung led the human delegation, flanked by representatives from the newly liberated species. Across the table sat what remained of the Council's leadership. They looked diminished, defeated. The proud empire reduced to desperate negotiators trying to salvage what they could. The terms were harsh, but fair. The Galactic Council would be dissolved. Reformed as the Galactic Union, a true representative body where every species had an equal vote. No species would have special privileges. No species would pay tribute. No species would be subjugated. Humanity would receive full membership and significant territorial concessions. Recognition of all human settlements and claims, freedom to expand and develop without restriction. All subjugated species would be granted immediate independence. The Council would provide reparations for damages, would help rebuild worlds they had exploited. Council military forces would be reduced by 60%, subject to independent oversight. Never again would they be able to threaten peaceful species. Most significantly, humanity would provide the peacekeeping force during the transition period. Earth's fleets would ensure the terms were honored, would protect the newly free worlds from any attempts at reconquest. High Speaker Vexthral signed the treaty with a trembling appendage. His pride broken, his empire destroyed. You have destroyed an order that stood for 10,000 years, he said bitterly. Kyung met his gaze steadily. We destroyed an empire built on lies and fear. What we are building now, a union of truly equal partners, that will last far longer. She stood and addressed all the representatives present. Human and alien alike, this is not a victory for humanity alone. This is a victory for every species that values freedom, every people that believes in self-determination, every civilization that wants to build something better than empire. The old order is dead. We killed it. But the new order must be built together, by all of us, learning from past mistakes, creating something that serves all species equally. The signing ceremony concluded. Ships began departing, council fleets returning to their home systems, human fleets escorting liberated worlds, ensuring their safety during the transition. Weeks later, Admiral Jiho stood in the same command center where the war had begun, watching as the last human warship returned to dock. Earth hung in the viewport, beautiful, fragile, victorious. Captain Hyeron approached with a datapad. Final casualty reports. 3,000 human lives lost, 15 capital ships destroyed, 47 ships damaged beyond repair. Jiho felt the weight of those numbers. 3,000 families who would never see their loved ones again. 3,000 futures cut short. The price of victory was always paid in blood. How many council casualties? He asked quietly. Approximately 150,000 across multiple species, though most were from ships we disabled rather than destroyed. Still too many. Jiho turned from the window. War is always too expensive, even when necessary. But it was necessary, Hyeron said softly. Perhaps. Jiho thought about all the species now rebuilding their worlds in freedom, about children who would grow up without occupation, about a galaxy that might finally learn to resolve differences through dialogue rather than domination. Perhaps it was. In her quarters, Lieutenant Yuna recorded a message to her younger brother. He was still in university studying xenobiology. The war is over. We won. But it does not feel like victory. It feels like we prevented something terrible and started something uncertain. She paused, choosing her words carefully. The real work starts now. Building peace is harder than fighting war. Making the union actually work. Ensuring this never happens again. I hope your generation does better than ours. That you build something lasting. Something good. On Kelros Prime, Elder Hivrox dedicated a monument to the liberation. The inscription was written in both Kelrosi and English. Freedom is not granted by the powerful. It is taken by the brave and protected by the vigilant. Let this stand as a reminder. Tyranny falls not when the oppressed beg for mercy, but when they stand together and refuse to kneel. The monument listed every human who had died helping liberate Kelros. Every Kelrosi who had fallen in the rebellion. Hivrox made sure their names would be remembered for generations, that their sacrifice would never be forgotten. And deep in Earth's War College, Professor Jiwoo began teaching a new course. Post-war strategy. Building peace after victory. The first lesson was simple but profound.